Well, good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time you're watching, listening to this. It is another episode of the Unlocked Podcast. We are three business owners from across the entire globe, stretching all the way from North Carolina to the land of unknown in Calgary. What? Yeah, in Alberta. And we are sharing our experiences with you guys from growing and scaling locksmith and security businesses, the things that we have failed at, the things that we've succeeded at, and everything in between. And today is another fun topic. Recently, Tony decided that he was no longer going to be responsible for all the topics, and he has thrown that responsibility back over on everybody.
The consumer backlash has been incredible.
Yeah.
Actually, yes. I mean, they liked my topics. I've been getting messages left and right. I'm bothered that I don't get terrific topic Tony anymore. But
yeah,
I assured them that you guys will have plenty of good topics and the content will still remain,
tip top,
whatever
as good as it's ever been.
Yes. It's only going to stay the same. So that's what we're going to be doing today.
An update here. My sauna, the air conditioning in here this week has been broken, and the sauna is becoming a legitimate sauna. So if you see me start to sweat today, it is because we've been having some HVAC issues here as Minnesota has
a podcast. It's going to be hard to see you sweat, but
you say that, but we do have a lot of people that do choose to look at Chad and I's faces.
What do we say a lot?
I don't know that I've ever seen Tony break a sweat, so that would be interesting.
It usually requires some kind of hustle to break a sweat. You have to be moving faster than a dawdle. So that's not really Tony's.
The air might be working. Someone just decided to put it at 72, so we're going to try to turn that down here.
All right. Well, that's terrible.
Can we also acknowledge that I have
terrible
a new
temperature, Tony?
Can we acknowledge I got a new thing here? The thing that holds my
a mic stand. No, I didn't even notice.
Is that what it's called? Mic stand?
Yeah, it's a pretty boring. Blue arm.
Boom.
Well, good for you, Lars.
Better. It's new boom.
And new AirPods or new earbuds? You're just...
No, I found them because when we recorded in Vegas, I very wisely packed them in my golf shoe bag carrier. And then for some reason, that's not where I was looking when
Well, I can't imagine that you would ever lose something like that. I mean, like a pair of golf shoes, for instance, that are at my house of yours. That
those things need to be burned in the bowels of Dante's Inferno. That's just, you know what? There's a pro tip for anyone that's listening that happens to play golf, and then you see on Instagram that Tiger Woods has his own line called Sunday Red. Mm-hmm. Okay. If you get a pair of nice looking golf shoes.
This is not sponsored.
This is not sponsored.
Far from.
So, Tiger, I'm sorry if you're listening, but your shoes.
I got to tell you, I have worn mine multiple times now, and they actually are more comfortable the more times that you wear them.
And how were they the first time you wore them?
Terrible.
It is ironic that Lars wore them on Sunday and they made his feet red. That is for sure.
Yes, they were Sunday red shoes.
How many layers of skin do you have? Isn't it like several?
I think it's 7. It found the bone on yours.
Tiger shoes will eat through all 7 immediately and cripple you.
You can absolutely tell which one of us has been golfing the most. Chad is looking quite tan.
Oh, this is from fly fishing. We should probably take a side banter on this. Yeah, I went fly fishing for the first time ever. I've had a couple of interesting experiences over the past couple of months. First time ever, I went to a professional soccer, kickball, football.
Those are 3 different things.
Well, I call it kickball, but I think that's probably offensive to the soccer teams.
It was soccer. Okay.
Yeah, it was a professional soccer game. That was an eye-opening experience. Fly fishing and a hockey game, all within the past probably 60 days.
The premise of this podcast is guys that, like work in the security industry.
Well, it was all related. Okay. Yeah, the fly fishing was actually an employee vendor event that I went to with a bunch of guys from our company. It was, I was like, this is going to be interesting. You're giving me a long stick with a hook on the end of it that I get to sling around at people. This could end dangerously. And I didn't hook anybody. I didn't even hook myself, but I did catch a few fish.
I saw somebody caught a fish and handed you the rod. That was cool.
Yeah, it was great. It was a really cool experience. I definitely would recommend.
I'm glad you could work that into your professional golf career. That's good.
Yep. So, speaking of, today we're going to be talking about employee events, things that you do as an organization that recognize employees or reward employees, ways that you can create additional opportunities to engage more than just work, right? So a big element of what we all do is every single organization that we have to work really, really hard to do installations, sales cycles. You're kind of always running. You're always trying to solve problems for everybody. And oftentimes we don't take time to recognize those employees that are working really hard. We don't take time to spend time outside of that grind and that hustle. And so the conversation that I wanted to kind of jump into today was just a discussion and a kind of a brain share of what are some things that you're doing in your organization to kind of give back to the employees, their families, be able to spend time with them and recognize them. I know that we all have different ways that we do that. And so I think that that's one of the ways that we can share that through the conversation today.
Sounds fun. I'm excited.
Yeah, you've got my mind thinking here because it's. I think we even talked a little bit about that last episode. Just the human nature of when you're focused on something, it becomes more noticeable or more prevalent, and it's I think I referenced the book The Secret and Tony, not Tim.
Yeah, Tim Robbins is an actor, I think.
Yeah, Shawshank, I think that's... Anyway, also a good movie, but not the point right now. But Tony Robbins, so, just you're really talking about, how to celebrate, how to acknowledge good work.
Yeah.
Because you spend, really, if not, it just turns into Groundhog Day.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And when you're focused on, it's one of the biggest knocks against entrepreneurs, myself particularly, always trying to improve, and then you don't take any time to notice the actual wins, right? And it just becomes like this never-ending grind.
Yeah. So I want to kick this off with kind of entry-level activity that doesn't require any time, any cost, right? It's just kind of time and attention. And I pitched this yesterday to our team in our all-team meeting. It's something that we do every month. Actually, let me rephrase that. Every week in our all-team meeting, we start the meeting with one positive thing. Everybody in the company shares something positive that's happened in their world, work or personal related. Just real quick, we go around the room. It takes 15 minutes for us to kind of go through that. And once a month, we do our business meeting, which is a financial overlook of our organization. That one meeting, I shift the tables a little bit and I say, I don't want you to talk about a positive thing that's happened in your world. I want you to recognize a individualized shout out to somebody else in the organization for the efforts that they're doing that you want to highlight. So an outward positioning. And here's what I said yesterday in preparation for it, because oftentimes we do exercises inside of our organization, and then I realize after the fact that maybe we've lost kind of the origin story around why it's important. And so I said yesterday, the reason that we do this, it is an intentional activity. It's not something we should take haphazardly. We are taking an intentional pause and looking externally to identify other people that are performing with excellence inside of our organization. And that's the way I want you to go about it. Because oftentimes, and exactly to what Lars just said, we get in a mindset of taking things for granted because they are doing what they're supposed to be doing, or things are working the way that it is. Or from an entrepreneurial standpoint, from an operations and efficiency standpoint, you're always looking for the things that aren't quite working well because you want to improve them. And so oftentimes a management team or an organization will focus on those things and highlight those. These are the things that don't work and we need to improve them. And then it just kind of feels like we're never doing anything right or anything well because we're always working on something. And that's not necessarily what the plan, or that's not what the point is, but that's how it comes across. So that is one thing that we do. Just pause and say, we're going to recognize people that are doing things well. And I want the employees, the peers, to be able to shout that out, because then that's other people recognizing their team members for doing well. So that doesn't cost us any dollars at all. That's just an activity and an effort that we put forward.
What is your thought process there about the employees calling others out beyond you or a manager calling them out?
What is my thought process?
To me, they're both valuable. I think employees need to hear when you or Zach are happy with them, but obviously peers recognition is really important too.
It's interesting, Tony, and this may be too personal, I don't know, but it reminds me of this all the time. Years ago, I gave a presentation at an MSC conference, and I identified 3 different businesses that I thought had strengths or activities that were happening. One of those was yourself. And I feel like I remember your dad, Mark, was very proud of that shout out, and he got a snippet of that video recording and kept it on his computer or his phone and would show it to other people. Was that
sure, you are spot on?
Okay. So Mark was so proud of the shout out that Tony received from another business peer that he took that and shared it with all of his friends.
Yes.
That's there's a basic theory around it. Peer recognition, I think, is far superior, because that's the people that I'm working shoulder to shoulder with that recognize that I'm doing something well.
Yeah, and it's a different voice, as much as we love hearing ourselves. Coming from others, I think, means a lot as well. The people that are in the trenches, comrades in arms, kind of thing. It really builds a culture of team as well.
Yeah.
Right. Personal relationships are what drive culture in a company. Start with the personal. That might be more wisdom of a bullfrog stuff, but that's well,
it's interesting because you said last week, Chad, that Zach starts his meetings with wins. What are the wins he's noticed? And I do think that is valuable, because it's showing the activities that you want to replicate.
Correct.
But I agree. I think both are extremely valuable. And I that was one of my takeaways from the last podcast. And I've already talked to our team about doing more of that. We start every meeting with successes and challenges for both reasons. The challenges, and it's all peer led. Most of the time it's personal successes. So people sharing their personal success and personal challenges. And we found both to be very helpful. A lot of times employees will talk about their, for lack of a term, failures and what they learned from it. And we have found that encourages a culture of being willing to try and fail, because we openly discuss failures and no one gets in trouble for it. Typically it's job failures. Our field team does this the most. And here's what I did on the job. Here's what I should have done differently. Here's what I learned. And then others can learn from that mistake. But I really like the idea of managers also calling out what are things that they've done. And I wrote down a note today to talk to about peers recognizing what they saw other peers do. I think that's a whole nother level of not just what did I feel I did well, but what did I feel that, Jimmy did well? What did I feel that Tommy did well? So I like that.
Yeah. And Chad, your organization, has it always been like this? Is it just a naturally upbeat kind of place, or did you do this intentionally? And if you did, how?
Yeah.
How did you get started?
It was a shift. So years ago, 10, 15 years ago, we used to have at our team meeting when we were smaller, 10, 12 employees, we did a warranty report. So every week I put up on the screen a list of all of the jobs that we had warranty calls or callbacks on, go backs, whatever you want to refer to it as, basically going back to fix an issue that was not resolved the first time. And we would dissect it. Again, from my perspective, this is a improvement activity. These are the problems that we had. How do we get better and avoid those?
And how did that feel?
Well, for me, it was amazing because we were learning what things we didn't need to do anymore. Apparently, that also was communicated out as a shaming session for everybody in the room. And it was an avoidance, like, oh, crap, here comes the list of mistakes that I made.
Everything I did wrong.
Correct. And now I have to be publicly accountable for them. So after we understood that through conversation, we shifted that over to the theory around kind of positive reinforcement is highlight the things that you want to be repeated. And so if you really think about that, showing everybody's mistakes, those are what you're effectively doing there is teaching people how to avoid making mistakes or how to hide those mistakes because they don't want it to be recognized. So then the flip of that is how do you highlight the positive things that you would want to be repeated? Exactly what Tony was just saying. And so we switched that around to the positive mentality. And I said, you know what? We're just going to start. This is probably for at least the last 10 years. We're going to start every meeting with what is positive. Right? Let's just wipe the slate clean. What's good that's happening? And if it's I got to go on go to a baseball game with my family this weekend, then awesome. Like what is something that you're excited about or that you're happy about, and share that with the team instead of just coming in with these are all the things that are going poorly.
Yeah.
So that was why we changed it, because I wanted to eradicate that kind of negative impact.
Yeah, trying to stick to the practical here. I'm constantly thinking because that's, this takes, information. It takes data, and it always goes back to me as well. How do I actually keep track of because going up there and just kind of winging it is something I'd probably try and do, but it probably comes off a little disingenuous. So I'm trying to think, how would I go about keeping track of this? And I don't think it has to be anything too complicated. I think just have, whenever you hear of something, throw it in your phone so it's prepared for the next meeting.
Yeah, you guys both seem to have a list of quotes that you've kept track of over the years somehow. Chad clearly had a list like the long as the Constitution there, but it seems like something you can easily just keep track of in a notebook on your phone.
Are you saying how do you keep track of what people say that are positive, or are you saying how do you keep?
Okay, we don't have a culture of positivity. Okay, what you just said sounds good. So if I'm in a position where I'm not there, how do I get started? How do I even begin to change this culture? And is this going to take 5 minutes, or is this going to right? I like the idea. How do I get there?
We're very agenda driven for our meetings. We have a scheduled meeting every week. That happens, and the agenda goes out 24 hours in advance. So that's just the way that operates, or 12 hours in advance. That's how that operates. And there's a line item on there that says one positive thing. It's at the top of the list. And then the way that we set it in motion originally, back when we started it, was I would start it off every week. I would give, this is what I saw that was positive, or this is what's good in my world. So I was setting that example, and then it's just been replicated. And so now when you have new team members come in, they see 40 plus other people share a positive thing. So that it is a naturally exemplified activity.
Gotcha. So it just builds on itself.
Yeah.
As long as you're consistent with it.
Correct. Yeah. And I think the hardest part is, and I've seen this with a lot of things in our business and in just in general, right? Is there is this path of putting something in place, and it requires a level of consistency. And I don't know what the magic spot is, right? But you try something 10 times, and the first 9 times, it's terrible, it's awkward, and you're like, this is stupid. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
The 12th time it clicks, and it's like, oh, this is amazing. But most of us give up at 9 because we go, this is not getting where I want it to go, and we don't have the discipline to carry it on to number 12.
Yeah, I think Traction talks about that specifically. In the book Traction, I reference almost every episode, but I think, is it 7? They talk about it 7 times, like core values is specifically what it's talking about, right?
Like the number of times it takes somebody to remember.
So the first time you do it, they're going to roll your eyes. No, they're going to roll their eyes.
Yeah. That would be awkward.
The second time also, third time, fourth time. By about the 5th time, they'll expect it and kind of nod along with it. Yeah. And by the 7th time, it's now just part of our ethos. It's part of our way of being.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't have the discipline or push to get past that early disappointment because they expect it to be an immediate return and immediate excitement, and it's not that way.
I have a question for you. Do you, Chad, if you do something good, do you want...
Well, let's wait for it.
Sorry, if Lars were to give you feedback, do you want him to tell you what you're doing well, or do you want him to tell you what you're failing at?
If from my personality standpoint, if you look at my culture index perspective, I like to know the things that I'm failing at. I typically will know the things that I believe are succeeding. So I need to understand the things that I'm missing or my blind spots. But I also don't like people, me personally, don't like at people giving me those accolades. That's just me, who I am. But that's not for everybody. That's not the way everybody operates.
But so are you, I'm just thinking about this from the opposite side. Are you then not catering is not the right word, but are you then setting the tone for the people that are not like you?
Setting the tone as far as recognition?
Like if you were sitting in, if you were in your employee's shoes, if you were sitting in that room, you would be sitting there saying, tell me what I'm doing wrong. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. I don't want the public recognition. Tell me what I'm doing wrong.
Yeah.
So therefore that model would essentially discourage people like you.
So I think what, if I understand your question correctly, is how do you hit on all the personality types and what motivates every type of individual? Is that what you're kind of asking?
Kind of, yeah, a little bit of that, but also just like, are you catering to the, are you setting the tone to the people that are unlike you?
Yeah,
it's more my concern.
Chad, if you don't like the accolades, this is a system to highlight the accolades.
Well, it's not necessarily accolades. It's just resetting this particular activity,
resetting the focus
on not thinking about everything that's going poorly. Because if you sit down with any human and say, "Hey, what's going on in your world?" The human nature will probably at least give you, well, I had a fight with my spouse this morning. The kids are acting up. My in-laws are obnoxious. They're going to go through all these lists. My car was having trouble. Okay, well, now that we got that, what's going well? Well, it's a focus shift, and so it's not necessarily bragging on yourself. Now, the shouting out other people, that is an intentional effort to recognize other people, if that's what you're talking about. But I guess what I'm getting at is, I
think you want to be careful to have a good mix of both. Like, you don't want to be like everything's all optimistic and only talk about the goods. You want to be able to talk about both, and because again, someone like you is going to want that negative feedback. You're going to want to know, when am I failing?
I also think we're talking public and private are two different things.
True.
Like we're standing in a public environment, public execution. No one likes that.
Correct. Right. Yeah.
I like to, I just hear Chad's wife in my mind. Just what else? What else? That's Chad's mantra. What else? What's next? And it's, what's the next? What else is really saying is what's next? What do we have to work on next?
Right.
And I believe she loves that. When you say what else, two things, what else? Yeah. But that's
sandwiches.
Sandwiches is next. Yeah. I'm curious though, Chad, do you think this matters, or Tone, if you have an opinion, does this matter? Or is this just a bunch of new age management crap?
I actually think it does. I was challenging Chad a bit, but I do think it matters. I think that you have to start with positivity, because otherwise they're both important. And if you don't have the positivity, then you're all negative. It just beats people down and they get sick of hearing it. You got to have a balance. And I agree with you that, like, especially in public, having the positive is really helpful. And you don't, I completely agree with what you said. You don't berate in public. You coach and guide in private, and you recognize,
celebrate publicly.
You celebrate the things you want to repeat. And you focus I agree with you.
So that's just and the reason I wanted to bring that one up first is because it doesn't cost anything. There's some other activities I think that we can discuss that you're investing money in. You're investing money into to your employees to give back to them. But that one in particular, that's just a mindset. That's just a mental shift in the expectation that And to your question, like I have a lot of employees that are with our company now that say, man, the environment, the way that you guys talk to each other is completely different than anything I've experienced before. Because most people are coming in expecting to be told all the things that they're doing wrong, not necessarily expecting to be told the things that they're doing correct or that they're appreciated for. And so that is a complete shift.
And that, I'm thinking about that. And, I'm going to say most entrepreneurs are more like that. What else, what's the next thing we got to be working on, and so that's a different mind shift. And I'm a big advocate. Like I'm sitting here thinking, is this ever going to work for me? Am I ever going to be the guy that's, slapping butts and saying, that's a hockey, doesn't matter.
We don't do that in our organization, by the way.
There goes
that's a Canadian thing.
There's our Apple. See, now we're back to explicit.
You kind of kept that
podcast.
a little clean. It was borderline.
Slapping butts.
We'll see what they do with that.
But I don't know if I'm ever going to be that cheerleader person.
Sure.
But should someone, that's where I'm at with that.
Correct.
Like I'm just, I don't know if I'm ever going to be that person because that's just not how I grew up. And
I don't think that what I've seen, I hope Chad doesn't take offense to this.
What are you saying right now, Tony?
I don't think Chad is coming in there being a cheerleader either. I think he's encouraging positivity, but he's not maybe I'm wrong, but
I don't literally mean cheerleader. Like I don't think he has he might have pom-poms actually.
I think we do have a few sets in our house.
I imagine that is.
I don't think that's my strength, and I think that's going to take a lot of energy for me. I think I have to be aware of it. But I think finding someone that is more natural for that, I think makes a lot of sense for me. Yeah. So I'm guessing there's going to be people that are like me, that are entrepreneurs, that are going to either think this is immediately crap, new age, garbage, chief cheering officer, or, there might be some merit to this that, it just might not be you.
I was listening to another conversation this morning on a podcast, and the guy was talking about how he had an influence in his life early on as a I guess adolescent, teenager, early teenage years. That individual, the only way that they showed like their love or their care was to be hard on them because they were trying to make them a well-disciplined, well-oiled machine as they got older, and it took a lot of understanding as the years progressed that. Oh, that's what they were trying to do. I just felt like they were always on my case about everything. Yeah. And so there's that. And that's part of life, right? And then there's the other side that is just everything is flowers and roses and butterflies and all that stuff and never addresses the issues. And so people are blind to that. And I'm not ever advocating on that side. But I do think that to maybe Lars, from what you're talking about, my natural instinct, and so this is one of the reasons I had to try to shift this, is my natural instinct is I joke and I pick and I'm sarcastic. And especially with people that I like and I enjoy hanging around with, needling people is the way that I show that appreciation. And that's obvious to me, but going back to what we said multiple times before, what's obvious to me is not always obvious to that listener, that other person. And so I had to be uniquely aware at a point that, that person hasn't quite figured out that this is me.
They think I'm a jerk.
Correct. Right. Yes. And so then it goes back to the onus. Whose responsibility is it? Is it their responsibility to figure out that I'm that's just my natural way and they've just got to figure it out? Or do I need to shift my position to be more effective as a leader and realize that I've got to be a little more cautious in how I'm communicating to people, even though my natural instinct is to pick and joke. Maybe we have to build a little bit more of a relationship before I can get to that point.
Yeah. You got to put money in the piggy bank before you can take it out. And, this brings me back into, and I think I talked about this probably, 30 episodes ago, but I had a manager. I worked for the federal government. Shocking that didn't work out.
Wow.
But I worked for the feds. I worked an entire summer season for them. So whatever, 4 or 5 months. And my review before the end of term, going back to school, my manager said, I've learned over the months, you're a really bright guy. you got a lot of good ideas. And I was like, hey, thanks, man. He goes, it's too bad you act like such a clown. And I was just like, oh. He's like, if you want to be taken serious, you have to act serious.
Yeah.
Not all the time.
Sure.
But, I was fairly devastated at the time. It was a punch in the gut. But that's almost 30 years ago. And I still remember it.
And you still haven't learned from that advice.
See, Tone, what Chad was just talking about? Yeah. I just recognizing that. And, I lean towards, Chad, probably a little bit of sarcasm on occasion. I have some sarcasm, a little bit of snark, and so it's a very good point. I'm sitting here thinking about some of the things we've done as wins, and I like the free one for sure, and I like that change in mentality and just that positive mindset, and I think that's great. I'm going to go the other end of the spectrum here, one that isn't free.
Yeah.
But
is this the one you stole from Chad?
Do you want to continue this guessing game, Tone, or do you want me to just tell you?
I'm just curious.
Well, yeah, if you just let me talk for another 10 seconds, I'll tell you.
Perfect. God. I'm excited.
See, is this the needling? Is this because I really like Tone, and is that why? Or is it because he's the worst?
Jury's still out on that one. For sure. It really wavers.
Just hit mute for a minute, Tone. And absolutely, I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to take anyway. So we, about 5 or 6 years ago, I think just before Chad, we started a year-end celebration. Everyone does Christmas parties, and you go out and usually have something to eat and something to drink, and just kind of, I don't know, do whatever, go to an event. And our event was, we went to this, it was like a comedy show kind of thing that served dinner and had cocktails, and we just kind of sat around, and I wasn't a big fan. You basically talk to the 4 people that you sit with and whatever. So and it cost a fortune, like dinner's $75 or $80 a person. And then, you're paying $12 for a glass of wine, something like that. Like it's a pricey event. Then I just kind of had this idea of, an award show, and back home, we have these things called wedding socials, whatever. You basically rent a community center, and it's a fundraiser for the bride and groom. So they sell, drinks, and there's silent auction, and they give out prizes, and it's like a dance. It's just a social event that people come out. And I thought, I want to do something like that, because you spend the whole night kind of chatting with people and, being in a social, personal environment with your team. So we created an award show. It was, I was probably watching The Office a lot at that time. But, on The Office, Michael Scott hosts the Dundies, right? And he stands up there at Chili's, I think, and basically makes a fool out of himself, but gives away the awards. Kevin, has the smelliest bowel movements. I think Kevin wins that award. So I thought this was kind of funny. So we created something called the Lockies. And so in December,
you don't give that award away to anybody, do you?
I don't.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, I don't.
So I got a great story about that.
Oh boy. The Lockies. So we rent a community hall. It might be $1,000 for the night. We give away a bunch of prizes. So I buy, a whole whack of prizes on Amazon Prime Day, worth about $50 each. So everyone that comes gets a ticket. When your ticket gets pulled out of the hat, you get to go up and pick a prize, whatever you want. We also have an awards ceremony. So the awards are like MVP, top performing in each department, top team award, things like that. And it's voted on by the peers. So I actually don't vote. Management actually doesn't vote. It's peer driven. So then they get a little trophy, because it's the Oskies. So it's actually it's an Oscar with holding a big key Um, so you win an Oski, you get acknowledged, and it's, black tie event, so everyone shows up.
So it's a bobblehead of you that's holding a key.
It is. What kind of obnoxious person would have a bobblehead of themselves? Only the worst of the worst.
When did you chain it from the Lockies?
It's
been the Lockies.
You just said
trophy.
the Oskies.
The trophy is an Oski.
Yes,
okay, an Oski.
Okay. I like it. That is clever.
Yeah. So we, and we give away, we give away
name.
TVs, we give away, flights, just a bunch of, and we get sponsors from manufacturers and that kind of thing. But, my whole thought was, instead of spending 20 grand on a Christmas party, we get a caterer to come in, we spend half of that, and then we can give away the other 10 or 15 grand on prizes.
Yep.
And every year, you get the feedback that, that was a lot of fun, and you get to meet the spouses, you get to meet, the family and everyone in a personal environment, and you can just feel the change in like camaraderie and just the cultural change every year in January, and people are kind of, just become friends is really what it is. So it's been really successful. I think we have a good time every year. It's not free and it's not easy. It's a lot of work. But it is it's a huge positive to the, just the positivity and the culture and teamwork of our organization.
Yeah. Yeah, we do something very similar. For years, we did just your traditional Christmas party, and it kind of got boring, right? To kind of your point, and you were just sitting across the table from somebody and just kind of sit and talk to those same people the whole time. And it kind of got stagnant. And so we started, the first year we tried to do superlatives, and that was a bust. Would not recommend.
Can you, for the Canadians on the podcast, can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so superlatives is basically like the Office Awards, where you were kind of giving an award, picking on somebody. Most likely to lock their keys in their van, stuff like that. Again, going back to our previous statement about kind of picking and poking.
Beautiful.
I thought it was hilarious. Yeah, I thought it was hilarious.
You were probably MC.
Correct. Yeah.
Exactly.
As it turns out, when an employee brings their +1, potentially their spouse or somebody that they deem as important in their life, they don't like to get publicly humiliated in front of them. Yeah, I
by their boss.
Never calculated that. My bad. And so, but learned from it pretty quickly, just from the awkward silence after giving those words out. So we shifted that pretty darn quick, and more to the recognition side. And I picked this up from Dave Ramsey, I don't know, a dozen years ago, around in his book, the Entre Leadership.
Yeah.
Yep. He talks about the impact of having your team members in front of their significant other and recognizing that employee for the benefits, the positivity, and the things that they bring to the organization. And so we implemented that a dozen years ago, and every single employee, we brought them up and recognized them in front of the entire organization and in front of their significant other. And it was probably some of the most impactful years that we had, because you were bragging on that individual for the things that they did well. And all of a sudden we started seeing phones come out, and significant others were recording videos of it. And because they were then proud of, it wasn't most likely to lock their keys in their van. It was, man, this guy does fantastic installations. These are all the customer feedback reports that he's got, all of those positive accolades. And so it shifted that mindset for us. Over time, we have transitioned that into our green carpet awards. So we did a kind of you've got the Loggies, we have kind of that spin on the red carpet, but green carpet, and it is all themed. Like, we legitimately have a green carpet that leads up to the stage. We have a band that plays, and a lot of just time to enjoy everybody's company. we have a photographer that's there that takes photos of the employee and their spouse or their significant other, and we frame it and send them home with it that same day. And that again is just a token of appreciation. And a lot of our team members go, man, this is the first professional photo that we've had as a couple in a long time. And we have people now that are like, this is the only professional photo that we have annually, which is awesome, right? That's just a great little add-on that we can have. And so we do a lot of those types of things, but now we have 12 voted on awards by the peers, and they're recognized, and we give them out like a formalized award ceremony. It's a lot of them tie back to our core values. Some of them are metrics driven, like the customer feedback award, person with the most 10
reviews,
customer feedback, stuff like that. And then one thing that we added 2 years ago was a LockDoc Icon Award. And we actually recognize an individual outside of our organization that has had the biggest impact.
So when is this? Because I got to book my flight.
We do it now at the end of January. So we moved it
make that work. Right.
Yeah, from December to the end of January because one, we were fighting a lot of holiday events, and we also wanted to recognize a full year in review so we can capture the essence of the previous year. And it's been amazing. We get to recognize people, and we do it as a formalized event. It's people are wearing suits and ties, and like we go to the nines because we want to put our mindset a little bit above. And again, it's that taking a break from working on locks and doing that daily grind to stopping, pausing. We outsource all of our after hours calls to another locksmith in the area so that our team can literally come and not think about it. And we just have a full day of recognizing excellence and people that have gone above and beyond.
Yeah, that's and it's about elevating just for that special occasion. It's amazing the shift in the mood in the preceding weeks. Yeah, right. It's that's cool.
So you've got some weekly positive reinforcement. You've got some annual events. And then the other things, and Tony, obviously chime in when you want to. The other things that we did is we said, okay, we have this one event that's every year that is employee plus one, and that's more of a formal event. And I don't remember. I probably pulled this up from a book, or maybe I stole it from Lars, whichever. But I thought we need to also figure out a way to have other events throughout the year that hit on each, like kind of just different collaborative interest that our team members have. So, we have an annual golf outing that we added in the fall, and that only attracts, 25 to 30% of our team because the other people don't really care about golf. We have an annual family event, and we've done that a couple of different ways. We started out by just renting a shelter in a park and doing a cookout. And so everybody could bring their extended family and, play in the park. We had
just a big potluck and do stuff. That's cool.
This last year, we actually did it at a theme park. So we have a local amusement park here. And so we provided tickets for all their families and their immediate family, and then provided them lunch in the park. So we all got together at a centralized point, but it gave everybody the rest of the day that they could go enjoy the park with their family. And the reason that we did that is, years ago, I don't remember where I picked it up from, but I heard somebody say something, and it connected with me so much around, you can give somebody $100 bill and they will spend it and they'll move on and probably forget about it. But if you can provide them an experience, then it's something that's lasting. And so I've thought back to even things that have been impactful to me where, either vendors or people that have extended some type of generosity to me in an event. Just recently, and I know we joked about it some, my uncle provided me with a ticket to go to the Masters, and that he could have given me $200 and I would have been like, yeah, thanks, appreciate it. You know, I'll buy some golf balls and lose them in the woods. But he literally provided me a day access to the Masters. And that is something that is a memory and an experience that will carry on for a long period of time.
Forever.
And we all have your uncle to be thankful for.
Yeah.
I know this.
Yeah. And the reason I bring that up is I don't think you replace monetary incentives with those experiences, but I do think that you have to find a way to create those balances in your organization where if it's always transactional and it's always monetary and you're always just giving a bonus, I think it does have short-lived potential, because when that bonus dries up, people feel like it's all gone. How do you integrate experiences inside of that so that they see your appreciation for what they do on a daily basis, and even more so, the people that they care about the most, their spouses, their children, their extended family, realize when mom or dad goes to work that the people that they work with actually care about them, and that they're not just there and like dealing with people that they don't like and they don't care about. And it sets a good tone for those that family moving forward.
And you think of the benefit that drives for your organization as well, right? It's, I mean, it's one thing to drive the emotional impact of your team and people, and that's very important. Yes. Coming from the organizational perspective, that is very hard to replicate any other way.
Yeah.
If you have everyone, if your whole family, if your staff members and their team and your family all feel like they're part of it, it just makes your organization so much stickier and so much, so that's really cool. That's a really good point.
We've done a different approach, similar but different. We don't do any annual awards at the moment. We do have 3 all-company events that always spouses are invited. Typically, we do a winter party in January. To your point, Jed, it started for us to get a little bit stale when it was just dinner. We have mixed it in with the last couple of years with more of an activity. So we did dinner and then a casino night, and that was really popular. So we did it again this year. We might do the same. We might do something different, but we definitely found that just the dinner is definitely gets a bit stale. And also then you end up just sitting at a table with 6 people the whole time, and you're talking to the same 6 people. So the nice thing that we've had with the activity was that you're up and about, you're doing different things, you're interacting with everybody. And then in the summer, we typically do some form of summer activity. And then the fall, we do a family activity where kids and spouses are always at our all company events. And then we have kids at the fall one and try to do more of a family oriented. Like we went to the apple orchard one year.
That's neat.
And then we did just like a park day where we had a bunch of like inflatable stuff for kids and stuff like that. And then we also we give managers a budget for their own activities for their own teams. Because what we've realized is what the field team might want to do might be different than what the accounting team might want to do. So we try to give managers a employee appreciation budget for them to use however they want. One team might be, hey, I'm going to buy you lunch once a month. One team might be, hey, I want to go to the golf course, whatever it may be. Managers are encouraged to use that budget for their own team. And we try to mix it into, sometimes a manager will say, hey, I want to just go organize this happy hour. Invite all company, come whenever you want. So we try to give kind of a mixture of all company sponsored events and then some managers some choice to do what they want with their budget. And that's overall worked well. Because again, like I said, we've learned that different teams want different things. And then also it takes some of the planning off of the company as a whole, and the manager, if they have something they're passionate about, can go organize that. So
I know we're getting close to that time where terrific topic Tony's going to come up with our next episode here. A couple of things I did want to add on here that were successful for our group. With our tech group, we have done the all-you-can-eat wings. Or the hot wing eating contest seems to be a big hit with certainly the guys in the field. And, we got customized shirts made for...
And you do that on a Friday so that everybody has time to recover.
Yeah, exactly. No, we do it on the cheap night. But we've done we then did a wing night with I hosted a trivia game as well for some random trivia. That was a good one. Something that takes, again, a little more effort, trying to build those personal relationships. I 3 or 4 times a year, I will host at my house more of an intimate gathering of about 5 or 6 people at a time and their spouses. Just host them at my house, cook up a big roast or some steaks or something, and we just sit around and, do something like that. And I found that I really enjoy that because you actually get to meet people, on a more intimate level. So that's been great. And I'm going to throw one last one here that was an absolute surprise to me. That was one of the favorites all time that I thought was going to be an absolute bust. We as a company went paintballing.
Oh yeah.
And because we've got lots of, 20-year-old punks, but we've got some 55 to 60 range as well. And I remember at one point I was hiding behind some tires and there's paintballs flying past me everywhere. And at that time, Jeff was our head sales guy. He would have been mid 50s.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there and I'm hunkered down, and this guy just comes running across the field, double knee slides and barrels into the tires beside me. And I look over and it's Jeff. And I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, I got you. You go that way, I'll go that way. It was
I got you covered. Go.
Yeah. He's like, covering fire. It was, so anyway, it was, yeah. So we went paintballing. We had about 40 people come out. It was in the summer, had a barbecue there. So it was a pretty inexpensive, really fun event. Yeah, it was. I think it just goes, try a bunch of different ones for sure. But it's so important. The morale afterwards is always so high.
Yeah. Competition always, I think, a friendly, fun competition is always great. You'll go back to the latest one that we had was we had 2. They were kind of like vendor customer type activities, and we were playing in a scramble golf tournament. And so we were not just competing in the golf tournament, but we were competing against the 2 teams that we brought who could beat each other there. And so that's always fun because people like to compete. And then the fly fishing thing, it was kind of separated into 2 teams of 3, and it was like a kind of banter back and forth who could catch the most fish and all that stuff. And it's creating memories, right? And so here's what my takeaways from all the conversation that we just had today, to try to sum it up into some functional things. One, does the activity show appreciation to the employee? If it's one positive thing, if it's a shout out or something like that, it doesn't have to be dollar associated, but just verbal appreciation. Is it showing appreciation to the employee? 2, how can you make an impact on the people that the employees care about? So if that's their spouse, significant other, family, whatever, how are you showing impact on those folks? And then 3, at the end of the day, are you creating a positive memory? So everything you just talked about, Lars just said, there's a memory there of being hunkered down behind a stack of tires, and Jeff slides in to cover him. That is a memory that you carry with you. And
that's 10 years ago. And I remember it so vividly.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so all of the activities that we've done, there is something that happens there that is a memory, and then you carry that out, and that becomes part of the company legacy, because it is this memory that happened that time that we took Lars out in the paintball field and just plastered him with paintballs, and that's a fun memory, right?
That would be fun. I can see why his team would like that.
Yeah, well, the time that the 3 of us went go-karting and we pinned Tony into the wall 14 times, it was.
This is going to shock everyone, but Tony was a little bit cautious on the go-kart track, and he started waving his arm like, go around.
But it was a memory, right? So
it was.
Finding ways to do that inside your organization, I think, is really the point that I would try to get to. And oftentimes you get focused on the investment side of it, especially as a smaller organization from a growth perspective. And so I would never advocate going out and spending more than you can afford on an activity, but at the same point, find ways that you can maximize your dollar value for those elements.
Yeah.
If it shows
you
appreciation,
you can do a lot for not much money.
Yeah.
It's getting people together and doing something fun. I mean,
Chad, even I would add right to that last one is if you can figure out a way to tokenize it, to give, whether it's a trophy, whether it's a widget, whether it's a shirt, whether it's something that when in 5 years you see that thing, you're like, oh yeah, I remember this.
Yep.
Right? Because nowadays everything's, you have 40,000 pictures in your phone.
Right.
Pictures just don't do it anymore. Right. But if you take that picture and frame it or get it printed or make
and it's
a
nice
trophy
picture,
out of it, or add create a winning t-shirt, like our trivia night, I got a custom made trophy with a brain on it, and it still sits on the desk. Our wing eating night still sits on the desk of our team members that won them.
Yep.
So yeah, that's
like
good.
it.
That's a good list, Chad.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, it's time for Tony to top us off with our topic for next episode.
Yes. Next episode, I'd like to talk about sales strategies and sales management strategies and tactics. I think you hear a lot of people in our industry talking about, I need to hire a salesperson. I need to hire a salesperson. There are some people that have multiple salespeople, or when you get that salesperson, if you just have one as a business owner, what are you doing to guide them, coach them? What are the activities you're looking at? What are you doing to manage a salesperson? Because ultimately, I think in the locksmith industry, we're very reactive, and you get that salesperson and you want the phone to ring and then have them go give somebody an estimate. But what else are you coaching that salesperson and that sales team to do that is proactive? And I know Chad and I have had some conversations about, specifically in the electronic security industry, it's much more sales driven. And a lot of some of those companies have like sales cookbooks and sales playbooks, and it's very proactive and like, here's who we want to target. Here's how we're going to do it. So I want to talk a little bit about turning your business into being more proactive through sales management.
I like it. That's actually a pretty good topic, Tony.
Tony, that's one in a row.
Oof, on a roll. Look at that. When I don't have to do every single topic, I actually
We've got a streak happening
again,
here.
according to our people, I pick winners all the time. So
your people.
To our people.
Our people, our listeners. So.
All right. Unlockedpodcast.com is the website where everything is housed. And make sure you subscribe, because Thursday mornings, sometime around Thursday morning, there's a new episode that comes out, and there's a video form on YouTube and an audio form wherever you're listening to this. So make sure you hit the subscribe button.
Don't forget the blog.
This morning
Chad.
was nice and early. I was sitting in the kitchen making my coffee, and Greta goes, "Ooh, a new episode of Unlocked Podcast just came out." She must have got a notification or something.
Look there, Greta. Yeah. See, she's our favorite listener.
Absolutely.
You know what? Today's a special day for her too.
It is.
Yeah. Do you want to give a shout out to your wife?
Absolutely. It's my beautiful wife's birthday. I'm not going to say the age, even though she's quite young, but
I mean, relatively and close in age to you.
She is only a year younger than me.
We'll just cut that tone and just say happy birthday to Greta.
Yes, happy birthday to Greta.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're going to go spend the day at the zoo?
Yeah. Going to go hang out with her and GD at the zoo. And
Greta is one of the nicest humans in the world.
Absolutely.
She's obviously got patience off the chart.
Yeah, she does. And
she must.
Yes. And it really enjoys the zoo. So that's a great place for her to hang out today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe we should get out of here. Tony will go to the zoo because it's his wife's birthday.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time on the Unlocked Podcast.